Broadcasting across the country and around the world, from Sin City in Las Vegas, Nevada, join Moose and PowerSerg as we prove that age is truly just a number and the best life is yet to come. Grab a seat, pour yourself a drink, and dare to live on 50 Shades of Great. Welcome back to another episode, 50 Shades of Great. Dare to live, daring to live. Moose here. I'm in remote again. Actually,
Moose.
Moose in the, what does a moose actually say? Because every time you say that, I feel like you're calling me a cow.
What is a moose? What does a moose say?
I don't know, man. I have to Google that shit. But but yeah, so we're back. We're back out on remote locations. In fact, I'm in the home gym here. Want to get back to Vegas Content Studio. We'll be back there next week.
But I like the Moose Man is at the gym. I like that.
That's right.
This is exciting, right? I like the fact that you shoot from different locations all the time.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to go back on the road and shoot from Mexico
try to make
again.
Here's the thing, though. I mean, you're in one of our recording studios in I don't know. Are you in Dallas, Vegas, San Diego, or LA?
I'm in Vegas. This is my home recording studios.
Okay, so he's in the home recording studio, and but what I like to do is I like to relate things to the call to actions of daring to live. And if you haven't already taken a look at it, please go back to our previous episodes. Take a look at Adam. Adam talked about working out and taking your life back on fitness and not overdoing it. Take a look at Adam was nutrition and how to get back in it. Take a look at Eric from California.
Adam
he talked
is the
about
tequila
getting into the
donuts
gym.
guy.
He is the tequila
donuts
donut
and
guy.
tequila.
But take a look at those shows. What we're doing here, as always, is this is a weekly guide for men approaching 50 Shades of Great, daring to live, taking your life back, and living life to its fullest. You gotta
give props. Who else can bring you a show about nutrition which focuses on donuts and tequila?
And tequila.
Other than the 50 Shades of Grey guys. Oh, we're the only ones.
I will say, though, Serge, is you did come up with a coined phrase, and it's kind of been a mantra that I've been looking at the DMs, I've been looking at the email. It's people are picking it up and rolling of it. And what you said that stuck with me and a lot of people is, you know what? And you're going to have to edit this in the first 3 minutes here. But in life, if it's not, I don't want to do it. Right? I mean, and then you've learned that on the journey through this show. And you're exposing how you're going to make your life in everything that you do. So,
I live my life that way. And if it's just, maybe, I don't do it, right? So the two things that really sort of resound with me is, number one, you got to put a mask on yourself first. I think it's a great analogy of how we should live
from the
our
airplane.
life. Take care of yourself, right? On the airplane, you got to put on the mask first, and then you can take care of other people. And the other one is when making choices, make those choices as versus so. Life is too short for so. But let's get back to the topic of the show for this week, which is generosity.
But real quick before I go there, I know that on the Adam show about the nutrition, I know that was something you added to your life, is when you pick up something to put it to your mouth with those calories, if that is not a 10 out of 10, throw it in the trash. Don't finish it. And I think that was inspiring to me. I really like that. I mean, there's
very
things
practical. Very practical, very smart.
And Serge, you and I came up with this podcast kind of like last week we talked about, Iron Mike getting in the ring. And when they asked him afterwards, like, what do you say to everybody, who doubts you? What do you say to your fans? And he said, you know what? I didn't do this for everybody else. I did this for me. And that's what we're doing here. We are on a mission as we go into 50, as we cross into 50, of taking our life back and truly daring to live. Those things come up. And like you just said, is as we progress and then we start to get better and we better ourselves and we get better circles and our friend circles change and we truly mature, if you will, there comes this need for a lot of us who've always been providers to want to be more generous, to want to take care of people more, because a lot of us, that's how we've been wired. And I don't disagree with that's how you're wired, but it's a two-way street. And I think that's the problem here. Generosity, I'm telling you right now, is something we need to talk about, because you can also be taken advantage of, especially if you're taking your life back and you're trying to make a change and you want to be able to do things nice for people. Just keep in mind that those same people, those same traps, those same, thirsty whoever's, whether it's, women in dating, whether it's,
Our
people
friends.
at work trying to get a promotion, is they're still out there to take advantage of you. And first, I just got to talk to you about this for a second. I'm kind of pissed off about something. And when I
Uh-huh.
was thinking about what we were talking about in the course of the show today, and generosity, and I mean, we'll get back to the overall topic, but I was at a Charger game in LA. I went in to buy my $21 beer from the lady behind the counter that's making $22.50 an hour in LA. At the end of my
I'm sorry.
transaction,
Minimum wage is $22 in LA.
no, in the airport or in the seaport, and there's these. LA has so many different wages right now. Yeah, no, it's crazy. Like in the airport, I actually think it's higher. I think in the airport, the minimum wage at LAX is like 23 something. And they're asking for more. In fact, recently, the voters of California actually showed, okay, we're a little too progressive, and they actually voted down the minimum wage to $25. But you can't, your economy can't survive at that. That's way too fast, way too soon. But going back to buying my $21 beer at SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles, California, from the lady who told me she makes $22.50 an hour, because the conversation went that way after I opened my mouth about what was next going to happen. She said, sir, just have a question for you. Flips the square screen and it says, how much do you want to tip? 15, 20, 25%. For what? And then I started thinking about it. The last time I went into a fast food restaurant, there was a friggin' tip jar. Like, at what point has generosity taken its toll? I understand COVID. Okay, during COVID, essential workers had to go. They placed themselves at risk. Your Uber drivers, your DoorDash, or those food delivery services. I was very generous in my tipping because, number one, they were doing something I didn't want to do. Number two, they were doing something that was essential because we weren't allowed to go anywhere, especially in California. Serge, we were on lockdown. And so I was very generous in the tipping. Well, that has now translated into the average tip is 25%. And I'll tell you, when you start going back to when we were kids, okay, back in 1992, I was working for tips. In 1992, I think the minimum wage was like $4.85 an hour, maybe $5.15 an hour. So it was some servers, people who had eligibility to earn tips were at like $3.
Well, but that's the issue.
I
right?
understood tipping.
So
I understood it.
Here's my thing. I don't mind tipping people when they do a good job.
Absolutely.
Right?
And that's what tipping is made for.
I love tipping people who go above and beyond, right?
Absolutely.
So absolutely, right? But the issue is that people feel like they're underpaid, so now they demand tipping for everything. Like if somebody actually prepares my drink, prepares my food, and delivers my food, and they're making a reduced amount because they earn tips, which, by the way, I think is ridiculous. I think that restaurants should pay waiters. Restaurants should pay waiters a living wage. Tipping should be above for good services. Tipping is something that you provide extra in the service industry, right? And that goes across the board. If somebody does a good job, you tip them. If somebody doesn't do a good job, you don't tip them. If they just do the bare minimum, you don't tip them.
Well,
but that's not the way things are.
Right. And I tell you what, one of the problems that I have with tipping is this whole based on percentage, like a sales tax. You have to be, I remember in the 80s and 90s, it was like 10%. Then it moved up to 15%, and it was between 10 and 15. Now it's 20%. Now when you flip the screen, it starts at 20% and goes up to 30%.
Or you have to do custom, right? You have to, and they can see when you do custom.
They can see it.
They know, right? So yeah, so the whole pressure of every place you
and everyone
go
feels
that has a, and by the way, the convenience, right? The reason they do that is because the convenience of the self-service terminals, which allows tipping, the convenience of that is pretty straightforward, right?
And we're not using cash anymore. So you don't recognize, you're not actually physically laying those dead presidents on green bills out that you've worked for. You're just pushing a button. And and there's a lot of places don't even take cash anymore. They just like, hey, we'll eat the fee. It makes it easier. It logs everything. I know that in business, we kind of do the same
But
thing.
that's not even. And that's one thing. But I got to tell you, I'm in Dallas a lot. By the way, I have some news. I know. So you know how
you don't get excited about anything.
Oh, do you know how the Surgeon Man talks about? So I've been spending a lot of time in Dallas, and you got to wonder why am I doing that? So remember
I thought you had work. I thought you had some work there. I thought you had a case or something.
Yeah, well, so remember how Surge is single.
Yeah, I'm not dating again, and
I've actually started dating somebody. Believe it or not, not semi serious, but that's not the best part of this story. The best part of the story is
hold on a second.
I go out on dates all the time.
Are you having sleepovers?
At times, yeah.
Are you shitting me? Mister, no one's sleeping in my house. I'm going to be the single man the rest of my life. I love this lifestyle. Now you're having sleepovers?
I know.
Who is it? Have I met her?
So this is going to be the best part. Yes, you have met her.
Is it an ex-wife?
No. Do you remember that? Do you remember that annoying therapist we had that really didn't care for me or my style of humor?
I didn't think she was annoying. She talked about the fact that you didn't know how to exercise empathy.
Dr. Pink.
Dr. Pink.
Dr. Pink.
You're dating Dr. Pink?
I'm dating Dr. Pink.
Oh,
I don't know. There's something about her that I think the hostility, like this is what you'll learn. If you ever, my ex-wives, right? The hostility is what attracts me, I guess. I don't know.
So what started out? Grunge sex or?
No, this is what I'm saying. The hostility, maybe that's what I recognize with it. No, she's actually really, she's actually really cool. And being a therapist, I get free therapy. So, it's good stuff. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, okay. So I won't get beat up all the time for being in a relationship.
I will let you know how things go. But yes.
Well, congratulations. I think
I'm still, sort of date. I still date and I still go out with other people, but
I just think dating's it's just exhausting.
Anyway, but the point I was going to make.
Back to generosity. Are you being generous?
Well, I'm being. We're gonna have to bring her back on the show to figure that out. But the reason I was bringing it up, so I go to Dallas a lot to go visit her, and crazy as it is in Dallas, tips are part of the bill.
Yeah, that's how Miami is.
It's 20%, right? These are nightclubs. These are restaurants and bars. And restaurants and bars, regular restaurants and bars, tipping is part of the bill.
Yeah. I went in by myself for a Cuban sandwich and a Cuban coffee in Miami, and I paid an 18% gratuity. Like it was just on the bill.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm telling you, bro, that's wrong. That's stupid. And because here's the thing. And let me give you an example. And this goes back to my whole thing about the whole percentage, like the flat tax or sales tax. That percentage is wrong. And I'm going to give you an example, okay? Going out with my brother. Okay, my brother and I go out to a restaurant, and he likes, or first of all, because of whatever reason, him and his wife don't drink. Okay, and he's content with a hamburger. He's not a big, raw meat thing, and so we go out to dinner with them, and they order, cheeseburgers, a couple Cokes. He gets about 6 refills of his Coke Zero throughout the course of the night. I have a couple cocktails. She has a couple cocktails. I get a filet mignon steak. Okay. They bring us the separate checks because, we go Dutch on it. I'm paying 3 times the tip that he is. They literally did the exact same work. Actually, no. They did a lot more work at his table because he bought the $30 cheeseburger, not the $75 steak. He bought the $3.99 Coke that got refilled 6 times. I bought the 2 drinks that they literally got from the bartender and set on the table. How in the hell does that make sense?
Yeah. Look, I really do think that what we should do is we should go back to a culture where tipping is for good service versus something that is demanded of you, either expected or demanded. And I'll tell you, it's not like that in the rest of the world. The rest of the world, tipping is optional. Some cultures don't have tipping. And I'll say, I still see.
There's places where they're offended by it.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, I love Mexico, and I've been to several all-inclusive resorts in Mexico, which do not allow tipping, right? They just simply say it's part of what you're paying for. And you would think that because the people are not going to get tipped extra, they're going to give you crappy service. It's the opposite.
Well, because they take care of their employees.
The people give you incredible service, right? They
And
give you
that's a difference.
So
You
I
take care
really,
of your employees. And so, Serge, this is my passion on this subject is, you know, being in the service, having been in the service industry, it is about taking care of your employees. So take care of your employees. I'll give you another example. So we went to Black Angus Steakhouse. Okay, we went out to dinner at Black Angus Steakhouse. Not high end, not low end, right? It's one of those like right
that's
in the
all right.
middle.
Yeah, it works.
It's not bad. Dude, we waited 20 minutes for our drinks, 45 minutes for our food. The lady didn't even refill my water. And then the thing, her excuse was, it's really not my fault. I'm the only one scheduled right now because so and so called in sick and we're short people. At the end of the night, she still expected that 20% tip. Now, why does she get that? Okay. Like bartending. I was a bar back. Okay. And bartenders are going to be little, keyboard warriors on this show. I know it right now. But I tell you what, if you're a bartender, your tip is not for making a drink. Your tip is for bringing an experience. So when you make a drink that you give to a server, that is your hourly wage. When you pour a beer and let me finish this.
Yeah.
When you pour a beer and set it down and don't say two frickin' words to me all goddamn night, that's not an experience.
I agree. I agree. Yeah, I think that tipping should be part of the. And if restaurants need to pay their people more, then you should have the price of the restaurant be what it is, right?
And going back to Black Angus, though, why? So now, because if I'm a business owner, you know what I would do? I would short staff. I mean, I wouldn't actually do it because I think it's a dick move, but they're encouraged now. They can run short staff. I had a place the other day, still try to blame it on COVID. Are you shitting me? 2024, we're almost in 2025, and your staffing problem is because of COVID. No, your staffing problem is because fast food workers in California get $20 an hour in the entire state when the rest of the state gets 15. That's the problem. And that you have the audacity at McDonald's to ask me for a tip. It's stupid. And then you feel like an asshole when you don't. It's the walk of shame. It's
Peer
like
pressure is what it is. Yeah. Now, I like countries where the workers get a living wage. I think the workers should get a living wage. I think
they should get a living wage.
Waiters
Serving is a
waitresses.
tough job. That's what I'm going to tell you. Because everyone who was an actor or an actress or something in Hollywood started out working at Denny's in West Hollywood. We could probably or Norms or someplace. It's a tough job. But the nice thing about it is when you bust your ass in those traditional places, the tips will come in, right? And I am a generous. Going back to the topics of the show, I'm a very generous tipper. You've been with me before. We're both very generous tippers. The yard guy.
I mean, yeah, we live
throw the yard guy tip. The guy that does my car when he does something extra. But a tip is just that. It's gratuity. It's like, hey, thanks for going up and beyond your scope of work. Thanks for doing more than you're freaking paid for and making this a good experience. The wineries. We're going to have a wine show coming up. Those wine servers that do a wine tasting. Dude, if you're just walking over to me out of the pre-measured wine and just pouring it and go, which one do you like? And you're making $20-25 an hour to just pour the bottle, and you're not telling me about the wine. You're not teaching me about your vineyard. We're not talking about what this wine is going to taste good with. You're not making me laugh. You're not making me look better in front of my woman. Why do I need to tip you? And then when I do tip you, I'm a member in wineries. And I do tip them well. And I'm going to tell you, the wineries, I think, are the example of where it's happening correctly. Because all the wineries, when I tip those servers, and when I tip the wine servers and the waiters and the hostess, and when I go back to that winery, they know my name. They know what wine I like. It's already poured. It's ready. And that's the benefit of that. That's your ability to get the status. But when everybody's just expected,
And there's some
I think
industries
it's
which are even worse, right? So we talked about, restaurant stuff. I am seeing some restaurants that do not have tips. David and I went to a place in LA. I don't remember the name of it. That specializes in hand rolls, and they're like, "Yeah, we're a no tipping establishment." The hand roll is
yeah,
$6.99. It's $6.99. It's $6.99. But the industry, which I see, just the customers getting raped, right, is the bottle service industry. So I live in
yep,
Vegas, go to nightclubs. I've
everything
never seen anything like what I see. I see a minimum on a table, which is $2,000, which is expensive enough, but
with a
that doesn't
$400 tip minimum.
with a four, yeah, and it's just ridiculous. And you can't even use the tip as part of your minimum. It's ridiculous, right? And I've seen just and all that the bottle girls do is they upsell, 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 upsell. Where the last thing I want to do after that is give them a tip, but it's mandatory. There's a service charge and there's a tip, right? And so yeah, I think that the culture of tipping has little to do. What I think we should do is we should have a culture of generosity where we're generous because we want to be and not generous because we're forced to be. And we're forced to be because the business owners don't pay their employees a living wage,
Right?
which makes me feel bad about the fact that they're not getting paid what
They're not
they
held
should be
accountable.
what it should be what we should be paying them. So that's the first problem. Number two, right? It's expected, and I don't like that. I don't like expectations. I don't care for it. I want to be generous because I want to be generous, not because I'm being forced to do it. Because then it's not generosity, right?
Right.
If it's a mandatory thing, it's not generosity. And I will say that in in places that have 20% tip, the chances that I live in Vegas and I tip out all the time, right? You
Same.
tip everybody. You tip the doorman. You tip the
Tip the valet.
You
Yeah.
tip everybody. I tip valets when I never really understood this. Why people only tip the valets when they're getting their car. Like by the time they give you the car
I
back,
want to tip it when they take my car so they don't put it next to the chingada that's going
every
to freaking
time
door
I
ding.
tip valets when I tip them more when I'm dropping off the car than when
Same.
I'm picking it up. Because once I pick it up, like they don't have my car anymore. But when I drop it off, they're in control of my car. So I want to make sure they take good care of it. So I tip them more of
But
that.
I tell you, so what? Yeah,
But no,
interesting
what I was gonna
fact
say,
about the Moose Man.
so yeah,
Okay.
so I tip but if you add a mandatory tip to my bill, the chances of you getting anything extra is zero.
Right.
Zero.
Yeah. And I do tip extra. So it's not uncommon for me to do 25, 30% at a meal. If the server was coming around engaging with us, maybe remembered my name, our wine glass never goes dry, even upsell me, but give me the attention for this thing. Like this isn't just a gimme. And you know what sucks about it too is you do have a lot of good servers out there in industry that are making the same money at the end of the night as the ones that don't give a shit about their job, that are just there for a paycheck. And I will say, so going back, something you didn't know about the Moose Man, but I used to, one of my early jobs was I was a valet at the Mission Valley Marriott in San Diego, and this is back in the mid '90s or early mid '90s. And I tell you what, man, when I saw that somebody gave me a tip when they dropped off their car, I did treat that differently. I did treat it as a status. I did remember his name. I put the car where I could easily find it. I engaged conversation. Hey, sir, ma'am, what time are you at the vet? What time do you think you'll be coming out? I want to put your car in a good spot. I took care of the car. I made sure that when they came out, that key was easy to obtain. And the guy that came in who just, here's the thing, man. Yeah, you know what? I don't care. Whatever. I'll get to it when I get to it. I'm still going to park your car. I'm going to do my job. I'm not giving you anything extra. Now it's the fact of, I went to, I'll give you an example. I went to Caesars, right? And I'm a diamond member at Caesars. So valet's free. And usually when they're just parking the car, I'll drop $10, right? Okay. $10. And dude, now I feel like I throw $10 they look at me like, because valet's $80. So a lot of people are going in there dropping like a 20, dropping a 50, and it's like you can't keep up, you can't compete. I want to be generous, but this this guilt of society. It's like the ultimate, you always say like, oh yeah, I always feel guilty because I'm Catholic or whatever the case may be. This is like that ultimate Catholic guilt on the whole world over tipping.
Yeah, I
And the
agree
other
with that.
thing is, by doing that, we're basically, Gen Z is not the hardest working generation to come out of like it's not baby boomers, Gen X. You've seen where the expectations have lowered. Now a lot of that's natural. A lot of that's through progressive technology. A lot of that's through different us trying to make it up to them. Oh, I don't want you to have to live as tough as I had to live. Oh, okay, son or daughter, whatever. Bottom line is, it by this tipping everybody, we're rewarding them for not taking pride in the work product that they're doing, for not actually working to the far extent of the scope.
I
And we're actually making a lazy society, and we're making a self-centric, it's all about me, the world revolves around my belly button society. And I just think we need to stop it. We just need to stop it. And tipping, here's another thing. I think tipping, we just saw this whole thing with Kamala Harris and Donald Trump going back and forth. But, yeah, we're not going to tax this and this. I think tipping should only be allowed in cash. And
That's
what that
interesting.
will do is that will bring us to a point where, you know what, there's an ATM machine, and then so instead of being accustomed to the percentage down there, I'll tell you what, if you look at some of those restaurants, do the math. I saw on a $400 bill, it said 20%, $101 or something ridiculous. I'm like, the math's not even correct. You know what they told me? They said, well, sir, you got the 2-for-1 campfire thing. Blah, 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 blah. We put the percentage based on what the retail value of the bill would have been if you paid full price for that. So how much harder did my server have to work? And number one, your food's overpriced to begin with. And this is just a cop out so that people don't have to pay their servers well. So what we should start doing is stop going to these places that mandate the tip.
So here's the thing. I think we should be paying people a living wage. I think people should get paid, right? The same way that the chef gets paid, the same way that the server gets paid, the maitre d' gets paid, the hostess gets paid. I think people should be paid a living wage, and that the cost of a service should be based on a profitability of people getting paid what they should be. I don't know where it came from that certain industries only get paid in tips. Right? I think it's ridiculous. I mean, when you look at the adult industry, right? When you look at strip clubs and that kind of thing, in California, there's strip clubs where the girls only make tips. That's just I don't understand
Well,
that.
and let's talk about that. Let's talk about it. Because the only people who are vocal about this, making a big deal about it, are like your restaurant servers, right? Your baristas, your people that, and if you, here, same thing. A craft coffee, a craft cocktail. Dude, if you've mastered that skill and you make that to where that's the best goddamn coffee in Las Vegas, I'm going to throw you a 5-spot on top of it because you know what? You've mastered a skill. You've taken yourself, I think you should be tipped for taking yourself above standard.
Absolutely. But I will tell you, I actually think something different. I think that you should be paid more because you're good at what you do. I'll tell you, is Starbucks coffee good? It is good. And which is why we're paying
Debatable.
$9 for
I'm
a
a
cup of
Dunkin'
coffee.
guy.
Do you remember when coffee was coffee regular, right? In the 80s?
89 cents.
Coffee regular, right? Coffee, 89 cents, right? That's all it was. We're paying $9 for a cup of coffee. And so people say, well, it's really good coffee. Yeah. And people say, well, you should tip here because the person made you a really good cup of coffee. Yeah. I'm already paying for it. It's $9. The problem is that the profits are all going to the corporations and they're not going to the people who are actually doing the work.
Right.
But
that's my
I don't
point.
get tipped. I don't get tipped by my clients. Lawyers don't get tipped.
But Serge, that's my point. My point is it's not us, the consumer, whose responsibility is to hold corporate America responsible. And what pisses me off, and this kind of goes into this debate that I was getting in this chat room, is it was most of these restaurant servers and bartenders.
You're debating people on the internet? What do you think?
Yeah, hey, I know I was probably talking to somebody in Ukraine or whatever.
What do you think?
But anyhow, it got thought-provoking. Hey, it made a show, right? But it got me thinking about the fact that, wait a second, they're picking the wrong battle. Don't come after us, the consumer. Come after your employer. Why are you willing to go to work on such a shitty wage when I have to make up the difference? And you know I'm getting gouged because you know that cup of Starbucks coffee. I was actually in the coffee industry as a side gig for a while. You know that Starbucks cup of coffee with the cup, lid, everything costs 39 cents. And now you're going to pay $7.98. So don't take it out on the consumer. Take it out. And I have a lot of, but hold on a second. I have a lot of respect. I have a lot of respect and I have a lot of friends in industry who are servers. And what I think is I would challenge the fact if they disagreed with what I'm saying, because I know, like I've talked to my friend, she's a bartender down in the Gaslamp district in San Diego. She hates her coworker because her coworker is lazy, barely pours beer, doesn't make drinks right, and ends up they split the tips at the end of the night. That's another bullshit thing. That's, again, not our fault. That's your employer's fault. But here's where it gets mixed up. When you go in for a personal service, like Massage Envy, right? Or you go into a nail salon or you get your hair cut, there's a set price. I'm going to tell you, most of those, like Massage Envy, you join their thing, $75 for a 1 hour massage. They pay the person like $20-25. Throwing that guy $20 or $30 or that gal $20 or $30, they focused on you for 50 minutes.
If the massage is good, sure.
If the massage is good, yes. And if you didn't want to talk and they shut up, or you wanted to talk and they spoke and the lighting was right and they warmed your table, you know what? That's great, because you know what? To massage somebody for an hour for $25.
Well, that's the
Come
idea,
on, man. That's
right.
Yeah. And
so
the idea
argument,
is that you're going to make up.
The argument that I make is that we should have businesses with no tipping, because then it costs X, and you know what it's going to cost, and there's no need for tipping because people get a living wage.
Right.
The idea behind tipping is that if you got a better service, then you would tip them more, right? If the business includes the tip as sort of part of the charge, which is what they do now, you have to do it whether you have good service or bad service. So the idea behind the service industry receiving tips was that if they got tips, they would offer better service, and if they offered you a better service, you would then reward them for it. And this culture of tipping began. I really think that tipping should be optional and should be based on the quality of service. But I've had terrible service at restaurants, right? And then I still wind up tipping, and I feel bad about it. And it's not
Me too. You feel stupid. You feel like they got one over and pulled one over on you.
But it's not simple. And the reason it's not simple is because what if the reason you had a terrible experience at the restaurant is because the food was bad? That's the kitchen's fault. That's not the waiter's fault, right? But that's
what I'm saying is you got to know the difference between tipping off the food and tipping off the service. I'm talking about the service. If the food sucks, but you made it a great experience with shitty food, I'm still going to tip you. Like, I'm going to tip you well. I think in the service industry, it's about that. What is the word? Service. Service. What kind of service did I get? Not what kind of steak did I get? Not what kind of beer did I get? Not did you make my old fashioned the way I like it? It's service. It's that experience. It's building that experience. And I'll tell you, we got to wrap here. But the best example that I've seen recently is, obviously, I'm always in the airports. Okay, I fly American. I'm loyal to I'm one world
I'm
American.
a Delta guy.
So, but I'm part of the I'm part of Americans club, right? So they have the Admirals Club. So when you go into the Admirals Club, it used to be a really nice experience. It used to be, it was a nice place to sit down. It was quiet. I mean, now they're so jam-packed because any little credit cards you get, any little points you get, I actually pay for my subscription annually. So whatever. But in the Admirals, but their servers and the people working in there are paid a shitty wage. And there is tipping in there. And it's obvious. And so the first thing I do is I drop a good tip on my free drink when I get into the Admirals Club, and then that is what establishes over the course of time. Now, I tell you what, I flew a one world partner recently, Alaska Airlines. I went into the Alaska Club at the SFO, the San Francisco International Airport. It's a non-tipping facility. They can get fired for taking a tip. And I asked the lady, what do you think about that? She goes, I don't mind it because Alaska takes care of me. I fly for free where I want to go. I make a good wage. We have these little parties. I feel like this is my family. I want you to be happy. I want you to come with our airline. I have
That's good to
stock in
know.
it. So it's ownership. So what it is, it's cultural ownership. So for me, now I have to look at it. Is American Airlines taking care of their people? Is that something I want to continue to support? I mean, I'm executive platinum. I've got over 250,000 whatever this year just on American Airlines, right? And so you look at that as a consumer and say, hey, do I want to support this? But the actual person working in there, get out of that one club and go apply down the road. That's your responsibility. But don't make me feel like the asshole because you didn't even say hello to me. You handed me a drink, which was your job, and you want me to drop you 20, 25%. Not going to happen. And I'm from this point forward, the lady at the stadium, I told her, I go, a $21 beer. You're making a good minimum wage, living wage in Los Angeles, and you still want a tip from me for pushing a button to ring up my beer? Not going to happen.
All right. So what's the call of action? What's the call of action this week?
I think we lost the kind of. I think the call to action is as we move forward in our life and as we progress, like we make more money, we get more promotions, we have the ability to do things we weren't able to do 20 years ago, right? Be careful. Think about it. Think about your daring to live. Think about what you want out of that, and don't settle. Serge, the call to action is going to be your new mantra. The call to action is don't accept less than fuck yeah.
All right. Our episodes definitely have a life of their own. Take us out, Moose.
All right. We appreciate you joining today. When you get out there, think about what you're doing, but make it the best day of your life. We're going to go have the best day of our life. Have a great day. I like it.
The show doesn't stop there. Join the movement on IG, 50 Shades of _great, or go to our website, 50shadesofgreat.com.